National Geographic Institute that is now called in Portuguese Direção-Geral do Território. It has every, in terms of legal attributions, it has every attributions related to land use management, land use planning, and as well we are data providers, and we are also responsible for the implementation of Inspire in Portugal, Inspire Directive, and we are also responsible for cadastre in Portugal. So more or less, whatever has to do with geographic information and territory, it's up to us. My presentation is focused on how, in which extent the Inspire Directive really provides a better framework in order to implement European directives. I focus my presentation mainly on the Water Framework Directive and in terms of its connection with land use management within a watershed context. I brought to you, where is the thing? Oh, there. I brought two examples. The first one relates to an European project called VII that is, is supported by the ICT Policy Programme from the European Commission. The second example was entirely developed in Portugal within my institute, and it relates to building a special data infrastructure in order to put every governmental authority together to manage a watershed. And I will use these two examples to try to show you the relevance of information management, but within the perspective of the user, and the perspective of the user related to the Inspire approach. So in the end, I'll try to bring some conclusions and future proposals on what I think that by this time Inspire should be re-inspired to be in a, better position to really support good governance at not only national scales, but obviously within European contexts, such as the Water Framework Directive. As you probably know or are aware, some of the European frameworks, namely those related to water and to energy, are those that are most relevant in terms of building consensus among Europe and obviously also among each national country. So, for those of you that are not very familiar with the Water Framework Directive, what it says is that the water management must be implemented by managing demand. The problem is related to managing demand. For water is obviously the motorway of development and is related to almost all uses within whatever the humankind wants to do. To achieve and maintain good water status until 2015 is one of the main goals. And to do that, the Water Directive says that it is necessary to prevent water quality deterioration, to protect and restore all surface and groundwater bodies, to promote sustainable water use, be efficient, to reduce discharges, to reduce pollution, to mitigate the effects of floods and droughts, to ensure sufficient supply and to protect the marine environment. Quite a difficult, very difficult task, but obviously related with information management. Okay. This is more or less the main deadlines for the implementation of this directive. And it was put into force in the year 2000, okay, and has these goals, as I just said, until 2015. And one of the main problems is obviously to make development strategies considering all different uses and all different users, and protecting drinking water. For drinking water should be the main concern, and it's a governmental issue. Let's see this in some detail after in my presentation. In terms of what the Inspire goals are, well, Inspire wants to build an European spatial data infrastructure. It should enable sharing environmental spatial information among organizations and to promote public access to spatial information across Europe. I was thinking on public access in the first place to European governance, okay? So my public is in the first place good governance, so access to information among public authorities to do better their job, okay, for the citizens, of course. Inspire common principles, obviously you already know them, probably, so I will not read them all. I'll just need the last one, that geographic information need for good governance at all levels should be readily and transparently available. Let's see in what terms, okay, but available to make good governance decisions in the first place. This is what I mean by watershed management. And here you can see how complex the problem is and how relevant it is to make every involved actors, government actors in the first place, obviously, but also the industrial investors, the tourism related actors that obviously bring money to develop the economy, but they should be balanced with what is possible to do within a watershed. And this is one of the most relevant watersheds in Portugal that supplies, for instance, all the Lisbon and surrounding areas. Lisbon is the capital of Portugal, and it supplies almost 1/4 of the population with drinking water. But that population is not located within the watershed, is outside. This is what this means, external supply, okay? The uses are all these, okay? Not only drinking and energy production, but obviously the agriculture, water use, that is the most consuming, okay? And all those others. So to monitor the effective development is obviously related to information, to build a data infrastructure, in order to build knowledge, okay, good and relevant knowledge. The two projects that I told you that were related with this approach was, well, the VII project, you probably heard about it. It's about, this area is located within the watershed that I previously showed you, and this is to evaluate how the urban areas evolved and how housing and building are related to the planning areas, urban areas. Why is this relevant? Because I need to know if all the building areas and industry have infrastructures to treat the water. and how many houses do I have in the surroundings. I also need to know, because these are different municipalities, okay? In this side of the river is one municipality, in the other side is another one. How do I distribute the charge among those municipalities, okay? And how it's up to them to think how much of the charge they use to tourism, to housing, to industry, okay? But they obviously have to speak together, okay? And so I think that you are all with me thinking that is obviously that the data sharing within an infrastructure collaborative for governance is obviously very, very relevant in this context, okay? This is the purpose of the VII project, and mainly the project that is developed in Portugal, that is an environmental quality indicators pilot. This pilot is being developed in Portugal. We'll be organizing a conference in later this year, so you're welcome to come if you want. The project aims within VII context is also to evaluate fitness for purpose of different available official data sets to deal with urban landscape evolution and how these different data sets evaluate the impact in water quality. Okay? So obviously this is about Inspire. Not only to have the data sets, but to see in which extent they fit to produce knowledge and which one is the best knowledge producer, okay? So these are the data sets that we included in the small prototype for VII, okay? And I also, oh my God, this isn't working that well. Okay. And the other project I would like to show you is, as I told you, Agua, this in Portugal means earth and water, okay? A collaborative special data infrastructure example, okay? This project aims is obviously to protect water supplies, ensuring economic growth and efficiency in public governance. This was really built for Portuguese governance of water management, and preventing bad development strategies. The main components of the special data infrastructure are these. Several dynamic data sets, dynamic because they are located in data providers, those within governments that has the attribution of producing data. Statistics, as we at the Portuguese Institute, we produce several data sets very relevant for this data infrastructure, but only those are in our house. Others are outside with the legal producers, okay? Several collaborative tools to explore, analyze, and improve these data sets. Search engines, information management tools, such as, obviously, GIS-related tools and SPSS statistical-related tools, metadata catalogs to understand data sets available, but look, metadata is not the goal itself. The metadata should serve a purpose, okay? And if they really serve the purpose, they are good enough. If not, they are useful. And then, obviously, discussion forum-related technology improvements to promote discussion not only about data, but about fitness of data for this purpose, and also about the different strategies that I have to define within the watershed management, okay? So you can see here different actors with quite different profiles, okay? And this is how it looks, more or less, okay? This is, well, if I want to make a new plan within that area, I look to see, and I want to see how the land use has evolved and how much industry, how much agriculture, forestry, intensive use do I have, how large are the cities or the villages, and what is the sewage that I have to treat, whatever. I look to the interface and search for all the previous studies of the area. So it's aggregated data, okay? What I can do is I can see how the data were aggregated and where are my first data sets, okay, before I aggregate them in order to produce other information, okay? Within Inspire, you will probably have metadata within these data sets, but not always when you cross information and produce new information that you usually call knowledge, okay? What I want to see is in terms of, obviously, water quality. These are different parameters of water quality. The impact of urban growth, for instance, within the water, to see if I cannot allow urban areas to expand or tourism to expand, okay, in this area. And I have different ways of doing it, because I have land use maps, obviously, but because they are expensive, they are not very up to date. But I have other relevant information, that is aerial photographs and orthophoto maps that I produce from those aerial photographs, okay? And I estimate really construction addition, okay? The relevance of this approach is you know exactly where the houses are, and when you put them together with your urban delimitation areas, okay, you know exactly how many are linked to the infrastructure and how many are outside, okay? So why did I put this example here? Because the land use map doesn't fit my purpose. I really had to go to the area photographs in order to have my view of how many of the houses really are linked to the water sewage infrastructure, okay? So, as a conclusion, because I was told I only have 2 more minutes, what we can bring to the discussion here is that water and land use management are obviously related and interfere with economic growth. Establishing legal frameworks to cover these 2 areas is quite difficult, not only at national scale, but obviously at European scale. Water Framework Directive applies to all European countries that have quite different realities linked to water. And they should be analyzed in terms of accomplishment by the European Union according to their different realities. Okay? You cannot compare realities that are not comparable. Implementing and monitoring legal frameworks is also critical. Inspire and information knowledge management approach require new business plans, dynamic management, adaptive development strategies, integrating data and sharing and increasing available knowledge is obviously very relevant in these areas. The collaboration of all and participation must be well informed. Otherwise, it's fuzzy, and it will obviously prevent good decisions, okay? Ethic, information quality to support each decision at different levels, the legal level, the technical, and the economical level, is essential. And these tools may obviously help to make an informed consensus, okay, whatever is the knowledge of those who are involved in decisions. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Maria. Maybe we will have some questions Any questions? Yes, we have.
Ahmet Sargun from Turkey. First of all, I would like to thank for your presentation. I have a question related to the watershed delineation.
What?
Watershed delineation. How do you determine the basin border?
Watershed delineation.
Oh, the watershed delimitation, is it?
Delineation. How do you determine the...
The boundaries
Yes.
were found using, how do I say it in English? Altimetric, digital terrain model, okay?
It is clear for the river basin, but for the sub-basin, what is the criteria for the sub-basin according to Water Framework Directive? What is the criteria?
Let me answer to the question,
Okay.
Okay? So, what you have to do in those cases, the first, you have to know what is the available collected data that you have to do that task, okay? So the first problem we deal with is that the geological map is at 1 to 5,000 scale, quite different from 1 to 10,000, that is the scale of the digital terrain models that we used to, okay?
Yes.
So this was the first problem. What we did to deal with it, we quickly understood, okay, that the watershed land use is strictly related in Portugal to municipalities. So instead of only delimiting the watershed, we also looked at the institutional model, okay, and the data infrastructure covers all the municipality area that are in the boundary of the watershed, okay? So all the area is covered in terms of relevant, available information to do this task. It was very useful, namely for what you are trying to tell me, because all the data providers were aware if the data they provide really serve the purpose of watershed delimitation. Okay? And in some areas as relevant as this one, okay, they could do a better detailed work in order to help us delimiting the watershed better. And what we did is to promote the collaboration with them in those areas where the doubts were larger in terms of the delimitation area. And that was a very, very good experience, because everyone is needed when you do things like this. And everyone sees that is very relevant to participate, and with a goal, okay? And with a purpose. And so even the data collection, okay, because you don't have the money to collect the data with the precision, the higher precision for all your country area, at least in Portugal, that's not the truth, okay? And nowadays, even less, unfortunately, because we are really facing difficulties. Okay, I hope I answer your question.
Okay, it's a nice discussion.